and welcome to Share Truth Apply Scripture. I am Jordan Chambly, joined as always by Wesley Wildman himself.
Yes. You actually introduced me first this time. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Typically when we have a guest, I always fall a couple minutes into the program and they say, oh, by the way, there's Wesley. No,
Well, there you go.
We do have a guest today, though.
We do, and I'm so excited about this. We have Representative Joe Mitchell from the great state of Iowa. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Now, what's Iowa known for? Give me three things Iowa's known for.
So most people think we're known for potatoes, but that's Idaho. So we're actually known for our corn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I would say corn. Whenever you see the sunset at night, we always call it God's country. And the Iowa Hawkeyes. But it depends where you're at in the state, right?
Sure.
You get a bunch of Cyclones fans up names and Hawkeye fans in Iowa City, but I'm a Hawkeyes fan personally. So.
I can attest to the corn bit of that because the one time I drove through Iowa, that's all I saw everywhere. Yeah. It was pretty amazing. Yeah. Very beautiful.
But the thing is people understand is that, Iowa's a little hilly, so there's some scenery here. When you go through Nebraska, it's just flat, man. And so, it's I would say, I'm personally biased. I'd much rather be in Iowa than Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
That's great. Well, in preparation for this show, I read up on a little bit of your story and a little bit of your organization. I do want to start off with your story because just how unique it is. You became representative at, I hope I get this right, at the age of 21. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That is amazing to me.
That's as young as you can, right?
Yeah, 21 to minimum age here in Iowa.
Wow.
That's amazing. So how did you get involved in that at such a young age?
Well, so I started working at the Capitol when I was 17 as a page, which is like a high school internship for high school seniors to go to the Capitol and kind of learn the process and network with different, representatives and senators up there and so on. And so started up there as a page, went to Drake University in Des Moines, continued to work at the Capitol as a legislative clerk, worked in the governor's office, Governor Reynolds' office, worked in Senator Joni Ernst's office in D.C. as an intern, came back, and my predecessor of 24 years, who was a state representative for 24 years in my area, decided to retire. And so when he decided to do that, in my mind, I was thinking, well, it might be another 24 years before I can run again, depending on who gets in there. And so I decided to throw my hat in the ring. And, it was a leap of faith. A lot of people that I knew personally that were former and current elected officials encouraged me to do it. But there was also, obviously, a lot of people that doubted me. And that was the thing that held me back the most was the fear of what are my peers going to think about me, right? This 21-year-old kid, still in college, right? Going to, my college classes. And they're like, oh, that's the guy who thinks he's going to be a state representative, right?
Right.
And so, I had a 4-way primary, and I was not the party's first pick. They had somebody more established than me that they had picked out that they thought would be a good pick for them. And I outworked her, and, I knocked on 2,000 doors. I made as many phone calls as I possibly could, and I talked to as many people as I possibly could about my message and why I wanted to be their state representative, and I ended up winning the primary by 100 votes. And so won the primary by 100 votes and won the general by 20 points.
Wow, how many, the general?
20 points. So it was a couple thousand votes.
Okay, I got you. I thought you said 20 votes. I was like, what?
No. So our area down here in Southeast Iowa, it's pretty red, pretty conservative. So the general is not a huge problem. It's the primary.
Sure.
And when you have these open primaries after somebody retires, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And so, but it worked out, and it worked out because of the hard work and the faith that to get through it.
Wow. And how inspiring, I think, for other people as young as 17 even, to hear that, to hear your story and to say, well, this is absolutely possible. It's not only happened with you. I know there's a handful of other Generation Z politicians who are in office right now.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me.
You may be familiar, but we partner annually with Patriot Academy. Are you familiar with them?
I am not familiar with them. Give me the lowdown.
Yeah, so they're in Texas, Bayside, Texas. They're growing to where they're having other branches in different parts of the country. But essentially, it's started and run by David Barton and Rick Green and his son Tim Barton. And so basically, they bring young adults, millennials, or Gen Zs in for a week, and they teach them the political process as a representative, and they teach them. They do a lot of mock trial, things like that. And it's just real interesting. You have to, plead your case and the whole deal.
Yeah.
And so they teach them all the, fundamentals of that. And they're doing a real similar concept that you're doing, but yours is more specific. Theirs is more general. So that's what I wanted to have you on to talk about is RunGenZ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your organization, RunGenZ. I looked at some of the material that was sent over to us, and I was just kind of blown away at the potential of this. It just kind of really inspired me. So can you give us sort of your idea behind RunGenZ and what the vision of this organization is?
I'm sorry to interrupt here, but start with when it began.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So RunGenZ is a 501c4 nonprofit that I started about probably 6 months ago. But the idea of RunGenZ started hitting me shortly after I got elected in office because I realized, there's not many young people my age that are in public office right now, down the line, right? Even at the city council and county commissioner level, school board level. And so, but I realized, going to these conferences, I love talking to young people groups, right? Not even young people my age groups, you know what I mean? So, and I love going around talking to groups that are my same age because I meet so many young people that are like myself, right?
Yeah.
That are ambitious, that are incompetent, and that are conservative. And so, I started forming this idea that, hey, I can go out and encourage people with my story to go out and make a difference and run for office. And you can do it at a young age, you know what I mean? And I truly believe at my age, when I don't have a family right now, and I have the time and the energy to dedicate to my constituents and the issues, that's a good thing. We need to encourage more young people to do that. So what I did is I went out and I found 4 other conservative Republican state representatives, all 25 or younger. So, we're considering them, Generation Z. Mm-hmm. And I said, let's form this group called RunGenZ, where we recruit and mentor the next generation of conservatives and build a conservative bench. And so each one of them that I'd reached out to, some of them were cold calls, some of them I knew from other places, but they all said yes. And so we have 2 gals from Florida, Josie Tomcow and Amber Mariano, Caleb Hanna from West Virginia, and then Joe Alexander from New Hampshire. And so I reached out to these people and I said, hey, I have this vision of us being able to mentor the next generation of conservatives, and they were all on board. And so what we're doing now is we're pairing with organizations like Turning Point USA, College Republicans, Young Republicans of America, and we're going to their conferences now. We're going to start going to their conferences now. We're going to the Turning Point Student Action Summit in West Palm Beach here in a couple of weeks. That'll be our first big splash, first big conference. Mm-hmm. But we're going to these conferences, finding the potential talent, and convincing these students, these college students, and these young people that, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm not an outlier. I wasn't a 4.0 student. I wasn't, I'm not, super special. It's just that I put the hard work in,
right?
And I had these conservative beliefs, and it took me across the finish line. You know what I mean? And so we're really trying to build this bench, and it's both on the local and state level. We need people running for city council and for school boards, and we know now after the pandemic how important local municipal elections are.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
The mayors, local mayors.
Local mayors. It's crazy the stuff that these local officials had jurisdiction over, which means it's important to have people in there that are God-fearing, conservative folks. And so that's what we're working on as an organization. And, we need all the help we need to get this thing going, but we truly believe that this is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. And so, what would you see, where would you see your projection of being in a year and a half from now, so 2 years total? Where are you wanting to be with this? Are you wanting to have, you got 4 people in other states, so that's 4 states that are represented here. Where do you see yourself being in 2 years? What's the goal?
In 2 years, we would like to have 100 candidates that we have worked with or working with.
Yep.
To be able to get into the municipal races and to state legislative races and just really grow this thing. But the thing is it, like you guys know with anything else is you never know how soon it's going to take off. You know what I mean? It could be in 6 months that we have that many candidates, or it could be a couple years from now. So we're just trying to grow this thing as organically as possible, get as many conservative elected officials involved as possible. But the other thing is too is it takes funding, it takes resources, and so we're really focused on trying to raise some money for this thing right now. People that believe in the mission of being able to preserve what we have here in America, with and that's only going to happen by electing the next generation of conservatives and making sure that your children and grandchildren have conservative people in their generation that are running for office. And so that's what we're focused on right now. Being able to get this message out, convince people that this is the route we need to take, and be able to get support for this.
And what's the website again?
So the website is www.rungenz.com. That's www.rungenz.com.
Yeah, and we'll put that in the description of this episode where we post it. So, for our listeners, you can click that and find out more.
Yep, and there's a donation link on there too. And like I said, I would any support we can get, we're very thankful for. And so we're trying to get this thing, from the ground up right now. And so it's more than less a startup right now, but that's okay because that's how everything starts out. And so we're really excited though. When we go down to West Palm Beach for the Turning Point Conference, it's going to be a big hit, I think. And Charlie Kirk's a good friend of mine, and Charlie's helping us out with this. So we're excited about what's developing right now.
Well, we got some more questions for you. Ready?
Yeah. Well, when I can't help but think about, so I'm a millennial.
Sure.
Wesley's millennial. Cedra's a millennial. We're all very familiar with the stereotypes of young people that people have.
Yeah.
So when you interact with young Christians, the Generation Z generation, do you find that they are interested in changing our culture, or do you feel like they're more apathetic? Do you find that stereotype to be true?
You're speaking specifically for the group of Christian millennials, right?
For the conservative millennials, because or for the rather Gen Z, because I know for the liberal side of things, I do see a lot of interest in activism and engagement. But for the conservative side, maybe it's just where I'm looking, but I don't see a lot of that same passion. Do you find that to be true as well?
Well, I don't think that. I don't know, not necessarily. I think once you have personal conversations with people, you can get down to the root of the issues, and I think young people do care about certain social issues.
Right.
But the other thing is too is about forming coalitions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing is, I think as we move into the future, we're going to have to start thinking about maybe. Somebody doesn't agree on one particular issue with the platform, but they believe in 99% of the rest of the platform, and so let's all work together. Because what the left has done a fairly good job of is, they had all the super socialist people on the left voting for Biden. You know what I mean? And now he just got elected and turned around and kind of slapped them in their face and just put a whole bunch of establishment people in his cabinet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't care, though, is the thing. And so, what I was talking about is forming this coalition and being able to say, maybe you don't agree on this specific issue with everyone else, but you believe in 90% of the rest of the issues. And so let's be able to form these coalitions so we can make sure that at least we're getting people that are on the more conservative side elected to the office. So that's what I would say on that.
Yeah. Hey Joe, all right. Since you said that, though, I'm gonna give you a tough one. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. You set yourself up for that. So what my response to that would be: what are, from your perspective, from speaking for yourself, what would be just a handful, or give me 2 or 3, maybe 4 non-negotiables though You see what I'm saying? Because while I agree with that 100%, as a Christian conservative, Christian being first, there are a handful of things that would be non-negotiable. So I'm just curious on your feedback on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously I'm very pro-life. I think that's something that is the core of being a conservative, right? Not necessarily being a Republican, but being a conservative.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, I think believing in life, believing in that, that is something that is precious to God. I think that, is probably a non-negotiable. Now, but when you're talking about the life issue, I'm personally a heartbeat guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a heartbeat guy, but then, there's some people that, maybe a 10-week person, but then you got a Democrat that they're running against that is a 40-week person, right?
Mm.
And so I think that's what we had to look at is, maybe that person isn't on the same exact level of the spectrum as I am, but, what's their opponent look at? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And the other thing is, too, is once you get up there and you're in your caucus, you're going to be swayed a little bit. I mean, there's going to be pressure put on you. We in the Iowa legislature this year, we were trying to pass an abortion amendment to be able to stay in the state constitution that, pretty much the abortion was not a fundamental right. Because we had our courts here a few years ago. They had a deal where they said that abortion was a fundamental right. And so we were trying to reverse that because obviously we don't believe in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what happened then was we had a handful of Republicans in our caucus who didn't want to vote for that.
Mm-hmm.
But as time went on, then we kind of rubbed off on them, obviously, right? And so we started dwindling away at that sector of the caucus that didn't want to vote for that. And so, I think it's important to realize once you get these folks elected to office, they're going to be with other Republicans. That's who they're caucusing with. And I've actually became more conservative since I got elected.
Amen. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but let me just ask you then, religious liberty would obviously be one, right?
Yeah. I think religious liberty would be one, and making sure that, we're not infringing on people's rights just because, of their religious basis, and if they don't want to, do a service for someone based on religious liberty, I think that would definitely be one too.
Good. And the website again?
www.rungenz.com.
All right.
Well,
Jordan?
Well, I was just thinking these are all these issues are so, they're everyone has an opinion on these things,
sure.
and there's loud voices on every side, and Generation Z, I feel like, also has a voice. I mean, especially the pro-life issue. Mm-hmm. I feel like that for the conservatives who are that young, that's the one thing that they will actually get up and kind of yell about, which makes me, gives me a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
But what do you feel like might be some of the unique challenges that Generation Z faces in the political future of our country?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, more than ever, what your peers are thinking 24/7.
Oh,
you know what I mean? That wasn't necessarily true before. And so, as we know, and throughout history, this is true, that obviously the younger generations are more liberal. And so they're going to be posting stuff, and you're going to feel like the one that's left out 24/7, because that's all that is surrounding you on these platforms like Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat, Instagram, etc. And so, I think it's being able to form these coalitions to say, hey, there's a community of young conservative Christians, that believe in the same things you do, and so, what you might feel as an outlier, you're not, you know what I mean? And there's a group of people that believe in the same things you do, and we can form these coalitions to be able to make our country a better place. So I think that's the biggest challenge as of right now.
Okay. With that said, how does the RunGenZ, the 501c4 ministry that you created, how does that seek to accomplish the daily discipleship? You mentioned that earlier. What would that look like? Or maybe it's a weekly deal, maybe it's a monthly deal, but how do you go about that practically?
Can you rephrase that, Wesley?
Yeah, sure. So how does the RunGenZ, the 501c nonprofit, is it a ministry? What do you call it?
So it's a nonprofit.
A nonprofit. Let's go with
okay. Organization. Yeah.
Nonprofit organization. How do you go about on a daily basis discipling or mentoring or fulfilling that? Is it a daily or weekly or monthly?
Yeah, and so we had 4 candidates we're working with. This time around. Obviously, we just started the thing pretty roughly about 6 months ago. But what we did is it was a case by case deal. So the 2 young men I was working with, I would talk to them on either a weekly or biweekly basis. Some of the other mentors and mentees, they did talk every 3 to 4 weeks, whenever they needed guidance. But really, the mentorship is pretty organic. So you're supposed to set up how many times a month you want to talk, and then but it's pretty I guess organic on when you need advice, and you call your mentor, and they'd be able to give you advice on whatever issue it is. But we're trying to make this as organic as possible.
Awesome.
Wow. I love that so much. I mean, and I really, really hope and pray that you're successful in this too, that there will be eventually, we'll see younger conservatives taking seats and taking positions and as leaders in our country. That really is amazing to me. But what do you think some of the consequences might be if Generation Z does not become politically active and does not take these roles in our country?
Yeah, I mean, if we don't step up soon, and I need very soon, then we're going to see the policies that have been portrayed by the far left actually infiltrate the country. And that's not a scare tactic. That's not being alarmist. We can see it before our eyes. You know what I mean? Eventually, the Democratic Party is going to be able to have old people like Biden be able to prop up the old establishment. In the next election cycles, we're going to see a mainstream of the AOCs, and that's a scary thing. And so, if they're going to have that, we got to combat that with our own AOCs, but that believe in capitalism, individual liberty, free market, and are loud about it. Are loud and dynamic about it, and truly believe in those things that have kept America great. And so, we really have to step up our game right now, because if we don't, everything's going to go downhill. It's going to be like the Roman Empire. So, I really think that we have to grow, mentor, and the next generation has to step up today and not wait any longer.
Was your experience as a young representative, did that inform this this goal, this vision that you have? Were there challenges that you faced that informed this desire to set up these mentors?
Yeah, so when I first started running, like I said, there was a lot of people that doubted me, and I doubted myself at times because I didn't really know who to talk to. Besides, there was older folks that I knew that I would ask for advice, but there was no one my age, right? That I could go to and really, have fellowship with, right? And talk to about what we're trying to do here. And so I think that's the most important thing is, if you see somebody and know somebody that's your similar age that you can relate to, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to ask for advice and to see what their perspective is. At the same age. And so I think that's what this whole thing is we're encouraging each other by our own stories, but we can relate to each other so much better.
Right. Wow. Joe, this is Wesley here. All right, so when I was growing up, a lot of the young adults at the time, or let's just say high school kids, my generation, they had all kind of excuses and reasons why they wouldn't be involved in the political process. And I'm not talking about necessarily running for office. I'm just talking about in general. I'm talking about in conversation and in voting, things like that. And one of the primary reasons was because it's dirty. So what's your response? And of course, over the years, I've developed a good response to that. You think about, there's other things in life that are complicated and dirty and don't go well, but we don't have the freedom to opt out of it. Marriage can be complicated, So anyways, that's my response. What's your response?
Well, just like you said, there's a lot of things in life that are dirty. And, a lot of people in life have excuses for things, you know what I mean? And I think that's one of the things too. But The other thing though too is I've experienced is, a lot of people say, I would never run for political office ever, you know what I mean? And then they go and do it, and they get up there and they realize, I think a lot of people, especially on the conservative side of the aisle, realize how important it is what they're doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, on our side of the aisle, they would rather, stay at home with their family and be able to be, a good husband and parent to their kids. Which is a rightful thing, but the thing is, like, then we don't have good people legislating for us, or on the city councils and making the decisions that we have to make, be able to, keep our society and make keep America great, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I think, once people get up there, they really see how important that job is of legislating and making sure that we're pushing through good legislation. That's conservative. And so, I think, once people do it, they have a kind of a, mind shift on realizing how important this job is.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. It is important, and may God bless you in your efforts. I know we're coming to an end here on the program, and I just want to thank you. Do you have any final comments? You may want to give the website again.
Yeah. So, no, I just appreciate you guys having me on, and it's been a blessing to be able to talk to you guys and have a conversation with you guys today. And the website, again, is www.rungenz.com. That's www.rungenz.com.
Well, great. So thank you so much, Representative Mitchell, for being on the show with us. Again, that is rungenz.com. The link to that will be in the show notes of this episode. And that brings us to the end of the episode. So as always, continue to share truth and apply Scripture. We will see you next week.